Welcome. In this explainer, we're going to build a toolkit. It's designed to help you sound as senior as you actually are in your next DevOps interview. So let's jump right in.
Have you ever had this happen? You walk out of an interview and you just know you had the technical skills down cold, but you feel like you just didn't connect. You knew exactly how to migrate that server or design the perfect rollback plan, but something just got lost in translation. Believe me, it's an incredibly common and really frustrating experience.
Well, here's the big secret from our source material. A lot of technical interviews aren't lost because of the technology, they're lost because of the language used to talk about it. So it's not just about what you know, it's about how clearly and how confidently you can communicate what you know. Okay, so in this explainer, we're going to build your seniority toolkit with 6 key pieces. We'll start with the seniority signal, then we'll activate your vocabulary, talk about telling your career story, nail those hypothetical questions, grade your certainty, and finally, we'll put it all together.
All right, first up, the seniority signal. The thing to realize here is that interviews are pretty predictable. Sounding senior isn't about using fancy, complicated words. Nope, it's about communicating with a sense of confidence and precision. And you can totally do that just by mastering a handful of language patterns that come up again and again.
You know, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? You could be the best engineer in the room, but if your language is a little hesitant or not quite precise, the interviewer can't really hear your expertise. But here's the good news. This is absolutely a skill you can train. You just need to master those predictable language patterns we were just talking about. Okay, section 2. Let's activate that vocabulary. You probably already know words like decommission or stakeholder. You've heard them a million times. That's what we call passive vocabulary. The real challenge, especially when you're under the stress of an interview, is moving those words into your active vocabulary so you can just produce them effortlessly without even thinking about it.
So what's so interesting here is how these technical terms really signal a senior mindset. When you say something like blast radius or rollback procedure, you're not just describing what you did, you're showing the interviewer that you think strategically. You think about risk, about sequence, about impact. It's a whole different level.
Now, let's look at this next set of words. These are all about engineering culture, and this is where you can signal true seniority. A junior engineer might talk about, their own ticket, but a senior engineer uses words like stakeholder, shared ownership, and remove friction. Why? Because they're thinking about the whole workflow, the people involved, and how the entire team can get better over time. And of course, we've got the words for those behavioral questions, the ones about your career. Using a phrase like mutual fit or lasting impact just lets you answer with so much more confidence and maturity. It really elevates your response way beyond just saying, the job looks good.
So how do you actually do this? Well, here's a super simple, practical plan. Pick just only 5 words a week. Then write 3 short sentences using each one. It sounds almost too easy, but this simple exercise is what moves those words from the back of your mind right to the tip of your tongue, so they're ready to go when you're under pressure.
All right, section 3. This is all about storytelling. And specifically, it's about 2 verb tenses that do all the heavy lifting when you're describing your experience. If you can get this pair right, I promise you, your answers will instantly sound more natural and way more clear. Okay, so this is the crucial point. You use the present perfect to make the big headline claim about your career. Something like, I have decommissioned legacy systems. That tells the interviewer what kind of engineer you are. Then you immediately follow up with the past simple to give a specific example. Last year, we migrated our CI server. You see? One sets the stage and the other tells the story. It's a great little dance. Let's move on to section 4. Every interview has that what if moment, right? What would you do if a deployment broke production? These hypothetical questions, they're designed to test how you think. And there's a specific grammatical structure you can use to answer them confidently every single time. And here it is, the second conditional. Now, I know it looks a little technical on the screen, but really, just think of it as a formula you can memorize. If we had only one cutover window, I would prioritize the customer-facing services. Once you get this pattern down, you can handle any hypothetical question they throw at you with total confidence. Now, here are 2 simple little tricks to make you sound even more polished. First, try to use were instead of was, like in, if I were the team lead. It's a tiny detail, but it just sounds a bit more formal. And second, try swapping out would for could or might. It softens your answer and shows you think in terms of options and humility, which is a huge senior trait.
Next up, Section 5 is all about grading your certainty. Look, if you only say, I will do this or I think that, you can come across as a little flat or maybe even a bit aggressive. Modal verbs are the key to adding nuance. They make you sound both confident and reasonable.
What's really fascinating about this is how changing a single word completely changes the social meaning. Listen to this. We must run both systems in parallel. That sounds like an order, right? But what about we could run both systems in parallel? That's a collaborative suggestion. Interviewers pick up on these signals very, very closely.
Okay, this is the moment we've been building towards. In our final section, we're going to see how all these tools, the vocabulary, the tenses, the conditionals, and the modals, all combine to create a really powerful, layered, and unmistakably senior interview answer. Just listen to how all these tools come together in this sample answer.
So, I have decommissioned legacy systems twice in my career. The most recent example was last year when we replaced our self-hosted CI server. By the time we shut the old server down, we had already migrated every active pipeline. Now, if something had gone wrong on the day, we would have rolled back. And in a situation like that, I would always recommend running the two systems in parallel for a time.
And this just perfectly shows how it all comes together. See? You've got the active vocabulary right there. You have that tense dance between the big general claim and the specific story. You see how the past perfect clarifies the timeline, and the conditional is used to give expert advice. That's not magic. That is a trained skill. So, how do you put all this into practice? Here's a simple plan. First, just rewrite your key career stories using these tools. Then, and this is a big one, record yourself answering common interview questions out loud. And here's the most important part. Listen to your recording 3 separate times. First, just for content. Then again for grammar. And a third time, just for vocabulary. This is going to help you find exactly where you need to focus. So, there you have it. That's your toolkit for sounding senior. It's concise, it's definitely trainable, and it makes a huge, huge difference. The only question left is, which one of these tools are you going to start practicing today?